What dreams are, in a nutshell, is a form of communication. And ultimately, it's a form of communication from the spiritual to the temporal, from our higher self, soul, to us. And the reason why we dream, and even the reason why we have to sleep spiritually, ancient cultures have taught us that we have to sleep because our soul needs some uninterrupted time for guidance. When we're awake, our conscious mind is so busy that the only way our spiritual or our higher self soul can get our attention, and most of us don't even realize why this happens, but you know how you get a hunch or get a gut feeling? You say, I should have followed my first mind because of something. That's the easiest way for them to get through to us in the waking state. And what that is that that's remnants of a deeper communication that's trying to take place. It is kind of like the sound of the gong after it's been hit. So that communication is happening, but we're so busy and our alpha waves are processing so fast that we miss the subtler form. So when our soul is communicating with us, when we're awake, we can only process it, or 90% of us can only process it as a hunch, as a gut feeling. But that's the internal guidance. So we never lose that guidance. But in a waking state, it is harder for them to get through. Our soul, our higher selves, our teachers, our guides. We have a whole team of people, of entities that are always around us to try to help us, to guide us. Sleep is required because that's the only time that we are slowed down enough to be able to receive the bulk of the communication. So it is almost as if our soul said, you know what? Okay, I am going to send an extension down into the physical realm. But I'm only going to do it if I can get some uninterrupted time, because once we hit the physical realm, we're gone. We're like, whoo! And we have so many things and distractions. So sleeping is built in to our incarnation to allow for uninterrupted teaching time and communication. Okay, first we'll get into what a plane is. And basically, in a nutshell, a plane is a vibratory level. Everything in existence exists in a certain vibratory state. I like to use water as an example because it's something we can readily see. Water exists on the physical plane in three primary states: solid, liquid, and gas. When it's in its solid form, it is ice. The vibrational level of water in its ice state is an extremely slow vibration. The molecules and everything are vibrating at such a slow level that it actually becomes solid. Well, that's what solidity is. It's a very slow rate of vibration. When you add energy into it, it agitates, or I should say it excites is a better word for that. It excites the molecules and the atoms. When they start to absorb that energy, they vibrate faster. The way we add energy is through heat. So when you heat up ice, as the molecules and as the atoms are absorbing that energy, they start to vibrate faster and faster and faster. So then what was once solid is now liquid. If we stop adding energy, it will remain in its liquid form because now it has absorbed enough energy that it is vibrating now at a form where it's much more fluid, it's movable, it can go places that ice can't go because its vibration is higher. If we continue to add energy to it, the way that we know energy, via heat, then it absorbs more energy. The more energy it absorbs, the atoms become more and more excited and the molecules vibrate faster and faster and faster. The more it absorbs, then it turns into steam. Those are three different vibratory states that are inherent within the physical plane. So when I say a plane is a vibratory rate, that's what I mean. That there are things even within our physical plane that are vibrating at such a high level, like steam, that we can't see it. We have a basic physical vibratory frequency that we all share. The physical plane itself is a distinct vibratory level. And within that level, there are different rates of vibration within that level. So that's why on the physical plane, we have so many different manifestations of life. Like we have 4 primary kingdoms. We have the mineral, we have the plant, we have the animal, and we have human. Now, what's going to differentiate them ultimately as the vibrations go higher has to do with spiritual and soul, and we'll get into that too. But just to answer the plane question, within the physical plane, the plane itself or that particular vibratory level, so we, in this context, we could use the word plane and vibratory level interchangeably, because that's primarily what a plane is. It is a vibratory level. And then within that level, there are different vibratory rates. Like, and that's why that I use water as an example, because it's stark. We've all have ice in our freezer. Take the water that's vibrating a little bit faster, put it in the freezer, because cold slows vibration, heat raises vibration. And there's this amazing theory in quantum physics called the string theory, talking about every single thing is just a vibration. It's a vibrational string. If we can look at it this way, using the word vibratory level and plane interchangeably. Within the physical plane, which is one vibratory state, within that state, there are different vibratory levels. Dreams actually occur or are stored in the astral plane. So the astral plane is what's known as an intermediary plane. So going up from the physical plane, you have, well, not up in a traditional sense, because we tend to think of up like this, and it's more of a spiral. That's one of the reasons why all the galaxies that we can see, it's all spiral. It's spiral. It is indicative of how the planes are. The physical plane, emotional plane, mental plane, astral plane, spiritual plane, co-creator plane, and creator plane. So there's 7 primary planes, and I say that with emphasis because there are primary planes. Each plane except for the creator or causal plane and the co-creator. Causal plane is its vibratory rate, period, and there's no gradation in that plane because it's the source of everything. And then the co-creator plane, there's no gradation, but there are a lot of entities, or there are lots of beings, because as the creator plane steps down its energy and does what's called extending. So how we'll tie that back, get co-creator, then you have what's called the spiritual plane. Then the spiritual plane, huge plane, it's the largest of all of them. There are so many levels. You can get into the monadic and the Budaic, and you just have so many different levels. That's the spiritual plane. Then you have the astral. The astral is an intermediary plane from the standpoint of the next step down, you get into what we start to understand as things becoming matter and the physical plane, because you have to have a transition, so there's a period of a transition, and that plane is the astral plane. That's where they're stored. Okay, so our soul sits on the spiritual plane. It's the lowest level of the spiritual plane, but still the spiritual plane. The soul will send down an extension into the physical plane. The soul pushes through the astral, through the mental, through the emotional, and into the physical, and it drops an extension into the physical. Now, because the vibration in the physical realm is so slow, it's so low, that direct communication, especially as the child grows, direct communications becomes harder and harder, because it becomes mesmerized by the physical plane, because everything is right in front of you. You can touch everything. Everything is here, and it's in your face, whereas spiritual communication is much more nebulous to our way of seeing things. And so when it sends extension down, as it gets older, direct communication becomes less and less. And so the dreaming is when the soul wants to communicate, we go to sleep, the images are stored in kind of the astral plane. It's like a telephone, if you want to look at it that way. It's like, in order for me in Maine to talk to you in Texas, or me in California to talk to you in Florida, I can't just stand out my window and yell. I need a communication vehicle. And that's what the astral plane is. It is like a telephone between two people, or a video chat. It's a medium of communication. And so things are stored there, but it's communication. It's kind of like you can store things in your computer and you can pull them up whenever you want, or you can do a live chat or whatever. So sleeping is that live aspect of it. And so that's what dreams are, and why we dream, and why the astral plane is the intermediary level. One of the reasons why, and I have to touch on this just briefly in order for the next statement to make sense, the reason why the soul sends extensions into the physical realm is, first of all, because it's a hardcore teacher, because you can't ignore things too long in the physical realm, because everything is in your face. It's in your face. It's in your face. So it's almost like boot camp, from the standpoint of whatever it is that we come here to try to work out. Those are the things that we're going to encounter over and over and over and over again. And at some point, and in some lifetime, we are going to start asking the question, why? That's an elevation. That's a vibrational elevation. Then we'll start to pursue, or to look into why these things are happening. And then that'll take us into the area of why we came here in the first place. And I just want to say this as well, that there are dreams that are just your conscious mind processing. And once again, that you can primarily tell the difference between those two is because it's nonstop chat. All of the different ways of looking at dreams are all valid at the level that they explore. So doing it from a psychological standpoint, valid. Doing it from just the mind trying to process, valid. Ultimately, all of those things fall within the overall spiritual form of communication. That I recommend, slow down, start to meditate. And what I mean by that is just 1 minute a day, 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute at night. Because until we can get our mind in a more receptive state, it's hard to hear. It's hard to understand, and it's hard to incorporate. As simple and as simplistic as it sounds, that will work. It will start to slow you down and relax you internally and mentally. Just that, because that's not a trivial thing. That is not a small thing. It's not a simple thing. It is the first and major step on that journey to understanding your dreams, and then to having that type of communication start to infiltrate your entire waking state as well. Just that 1 minute a day. It might sound simple, but it is profound